All right. Hello, everybody, and welcome to Geopolitics in Conflict Show. Very excited to be with you. I know it's been a while. What was it, 2 3 weeks?
Yeah, I think it's
Somewhere
been like
like
3 weeks.
So where time goes. So anyway, we are very, very excited. We were working on something else and it got canceled and all that. So that's why we decided to move forward. And actually, we'll tell you why. It's our community. We share everything. We will do an interview with Lior. You guys heard from him, the financial guy. And connection didn't work, so we decided to reschedule that and move with this live stream right away. So very, very excited to be with you as always. We got an interesting topic for you, one that will make a lot of changes on the global landscape moving forward. So what are we going to be covering?
All right. So what we are covering today is that China has authorized the building of 11 new nuclear reactors. So it's a $31 billion investment, but this puts China in a very interesting place in terms of reliance on fossil fuels, for example, reliance on renewable energies. And it seriously lowers the carbon footprint that China is emitting, because right now China actually uses more coal than anyone else in the entire world. So we'll dive into that in a second. But one of the things that it really does do is it gives China the opportunity to take themselves more or less out of the equation of having to rely on the fossil fuels that might be cut off at any time.
But here's the question. Does it give them also the upper hand?
I think the answer is yes.
Well, we're gonna let our community get into this. I just would like to throw this ahead of time. It's just because when you consider, for example, the China's announcement about the world first thorium molten salt nuclear power, which will be in 2025, you put the two and two together and figured, okay, what are the geopolitical implications of something like this? Because it will be. To those who say there will be none, sorry, you will be mistaken if you don't think so. Well, and China already thought about it strategically.
Well, so energy fundamentally is sort of the big behemoth in terms of either needs for a country or resources that a country can provide. So, for example, the Saudis more or less have gotten very wealthy off of the oil reserves that they have, off of the oil in the land that they have, right? Without those resources, I'm not sure anyone would argue that Saudi Arabia would be as wealthy as it is today. It's the same situation in the case of Russia, for example. Russia has a lot of oil to offer. And so it's interesting that fundamentally, even during all of this talk of sanctions and all of that, that is one thing that the United States knew was still actually coming in, was still actually being purchased globally, even if it was through India. And the United States didn't step in because oil scarcity or oil instability is actually a very big problem worldwide and not just for Russia.
Well, we are experiencing that here. I mean, you look at now where the businesses are. You look at where the reports coming out of the government saying that, oh, the economy did a little bit better, which is a lie.
Oh my God. Okay.
Why not?
I know.
Why not? Let's share it. Let's share it. Because
I know that this is a little bit off topic, but it shook me when I saw it.
I was shaking my head.
Okay, so let me see if I can show you guys any of these. So basically, large retailers here in the United States are having a very challenging time. They're reporting far under what their expected profits were, or what they expected their profits to be. So they are losing money hand over fist because everything is so expensive that the U.S. consumer is so far in debt that they cannot keep up buying, luxuries like food, luxuries like, food, clothing, toilet paper, right? So as these large corporations are reporting these catastrophic earnings, by the Biden administration, Biden economics, I guess. So they decided to put in a revision for their Q2 GDP. So that they put in that the U.S. actually grew in Q2, much more than was originally reported, due to an unexpected surge in personal consumption, meaning people are buying more things.
It's a lie.
Okay. As these large corporations, you see Starbucks, you see McDonald's, you see Dollar General, you see all of these very large corporations literally reporting these earnings that are in the tubes.
Yeah.
And the Biden administration comes out and says, well, people are buying more things.
Yeah, it's a lie.
If you ask the corporations, I guarantee they will tell you that's not true.
Picture. Yeah, we just wanted to highlight this because it's part of the bigger conversation. I know our topic is on China's nuclear plants and so forth and the strategy, but it behooves us also to understand, because remember, who was in China yesterday? What is today's date?
The 29th. Yes.
Still in China. None other than the National Security Advisor. What the heck will he be going to China for? You all know what it means. Because despite what you hear, there is always backdoor channels that are open with Chinese, believe it or not. We say one thing on the open, but behind those doors, we'll go and ask. I mean, I even use the term beg.
Yeah.
Yeah, I won't shy away from saying it, because that's what we do.
Yeah.
When you have the Treasury Secretary going in,
yeah,
Secretary of State, you got the Speaker of the House, whatever that, all of them go in China. What are they going for?
Yeah, no,
to have tea with the Chinese? No. They're going to, please, can you help us with this and that, or buy our debt? And what we say outside is just for.
Well, so here's what I fundamentally believe about that situation. The US and China are tied in a way that I think neither country would say is ideal. Okay. I'm not even sure that the Chinese would look at this and say, oh, this is fantastic. We love being tied to the United States in this way, because the United States fundamentally, like, I think I was listening to something and there was a Chinese woman and she was like, you know, the drama of the US politics on the world stage, it is drama. It's ridiculous. It's honestly very embarrassing to watch what's been happening with our presidential election for the last, I don't know, 6 months, especially.
Yeah.
It is literally drama. Okay. Yeah. So I'm not sure that the Chinese would also be like, this is a great partnership. No, I think both parties are like, this is not stellar. But the only economy that can displace the United States is China. And fundamentally, I think the United States and China, because the United States isn't just going to collapse, right? It's not just going to be like, oops, okay, I guess nothing's worth anything anymore.
Yeah.
No. So I think fundamentally right now we have in both directions a sort of who's going to sort of be on top here. But here's the thing. Know what I mean?
Here's the thing, just to piggyback on your conversation here, because the question is, and I'm going to ask you, not the community.
Okay.
I'll ask you.
Okay.
You know, do you think China wants to displace the U.S. economically?
So here's what I'll say. In purchasing power parity, it already does.
Well, yeah, because
so they already
it's
have
output. It's output. It's far greater than us.
Right. So they already have. Well, but they have larger purchasing power than we do. Okay. Yeah. So in a sense, yes, it already does. And I do think that what I don't see is I don't see China trying to get the yuan to be a reserve currency. I don't see that.
I don't see that either.
But what I do see is that on the world stage, China is not shying away from creating its own more or less clique or group or allies, right? And I'm not saying any of it's wrong. Okay?
Yeah, but look how many countries we are sanctioning around the world.
Oh no, absolutely. Yeah. But what I do think is that China can look at this situation and say, okay, well, do we really want to be under the foot of the United States anymore? No. The answer is absolutely no. And obviously,
rightly so.
Yeah. So I do think that China really is taking its place on the world stage as a leader. And this is my personal opinion, okay? And I am not saying it is right, and I am not saying it is wrong. But I do believe that China is stepping into that role in a very powerful way. China is President Xi Jinping is not showing up to, some of the big, hooplas or shows of theater of all the political leaders that come together, do backdoor deals and do nothing publicly, right?
Yeah.
So he's not showing up. He's sending some, people who are under him, right? They're really negotiating a lot of very big big things like between Saudi Arabia,
or the oil energy for the payments and so forth.
Exactly.
Well, because this is China's culture. China's culture, it's not about bragging. They don't brag,
Sure.
but they look for results.
Absolutely.
And that's what you will expect from a government.
Right.
So to me, I'd rather have a setting like this when a government does provide results.
So I will say this. Okay. So the United States, after it came out of World War II, was sort of the top, right? And it was on its way up. And like many countries before it, or many empires before it, it mismanaged the power that it had.
That's true.
China has an opportunity right now because China has such great results because first of all, very prudent planning. Okay. They have absolutely had prudent planning.
That's true.
But they had a long way to come up from. And so it's like, I hate this analogy, but it's like if you have a lot of weight to lose, you lose a lot of weight at first and you see more results because you have more,
that's true.
Right? You have more progress to make. You have more gains to make, right? So China came from a very challenged place, a lot of poverty, a lot of very strong economic challenge. So they've been able to, and they deserve credit for this because many places around the world have economic challenges that have not worked their way out of them. Okay. So they deserve every bit of credit for what they've done. But they did have they did have a much further way to go than the United States has in the same amount of time. And so I don't know that you can compare that exactly because the US has hit the peak of its cycle and is on its way down. And China was down and is on its way up. So they're fundamentally at different places in their evolution as an empire.
But still, China outperformed the US in that time frame.
Oh, sure.
You're looking at about 38 years. I've been watching this. I've been reading about it. I'm writing a book about China. And I had to track this 38 years. In my own calculations, give or take 3 or 4. That's why I go with 40.
Sure. 40 is great.
And for decades, the such an exponential expansion by which on all sectors, we're not talking about just defense, for example.
Sure.
Look at the agricultural aspects. Look at the infrastructure. Look at technology. Look at the social setting. When China was able to rise 700 800 million people out of poverty.
Absolutely.
When you look at all this, but you look at the time frame of 4 decades, that's impressive.
It is.
And that's why it begs me to ask the question, are they looking over to take over the US? And I don't see it that way.
But they already are. That's what I'm trying to say. But in so many ways, they already are.
That's a natural progression. This is not intended. This is my question is.
I mean, I don't know, right?
The way I see it
in their mind.
And please, guys, correct me if I'm wrong. I like we like your feedback here. My argument is, what China has been doing was not intentional to displace the US. No, it's a natural progression because of the efforts it puts.
Well, I think.
What do you guys think?
I think that China fundamentally understands the US's value as a trading partner.
Yeah.
Because the US, a vast majority of China's goods, where do they go? They come here. They come to the United States. So China understands. And my observation is that China has not tried to alienate the United States in the same way.
Because it's a large market.
It's a large market. They're not interested in alienating that market. But if you ask, has China been interested in dominating the US market in terms of goods?
No.
Yes. Most of our stuff comes from China, right?
I think I'm not explaining myself clearly here. The way I look at it, it's not about, like, for example, here is the best example.
We got fire going on.
It's just because I need to, because that's how I've been thinking about it. As I am writing,
for sure.
I kind of, how I'm going to articulate this to the readers for them to understand in a simple way. The way I look at it, it's not, when I said not intentional, another word, was not the main objective of the strategies and policies emanating from 3 decades ago with the objective of we want to control the US market we want to control the global market. China was never into that intention. And the comparison that I can give you and give the audience, of course, is the financial aspect for us. When we created Bretton Woods, what was the objective of it? It was one objective: to control the dominance of the global financial system, to the point that we rendered the dollar as the only mechanism by which trade is conducted and so forth. But also to pave the way for us when we impose sanctions on other countries. We see China, I've always thought about this. China's aim was not, and again, I am thinking based on the trends that I've been watching, based on my own reading and the white papers that I read and so forth, was not intentionally to take over.
Well, but what was their intention then?
The intention was,
because they did take over.
What as I said is by taking over in a natural progression way. In other words, they grow their economy, automatically it will expand on the global stage. But it wasn't objectively, we're going to grow our economy because we want to take over the US.
No, I don't know that they have the same mindset, because that is a very American mindset. It's not just, it's a colonial mindset, right?
That's what I meant.
Because it's not, I don't want to dog on America here, because it's not just the US. How big was the British Empire before that, right? How big was the French or the Dutch or, you know, whatever. So we've had these empires, okay? So it's not just the US. It's a very weird natural part of humanity, maybe. But I will say that whether it was their intention or not, it sort of is what they did. And you know, there is the real. Come here, Calliope.
Oh, she's
as my dog. There is fundamentally, China did sort of corner the U.S. market for lack of better terms, right? And it makes sense in business to say, this is my largest market. I would like to secure this market. Every business does that. And I think a lot of that is wrong, because we have a lot of lobbyists. We have a lot of it's the reason we don't have high-speed trains here, or any trains, is because the auto lobby was probably like, hey, you know, we want everyone driving a car, right? So it's not always in the best interest of the person. But China very much understood that the US market was how they made their money.
That's right.
And so, you know, I know that right now there's a very odd and you know, our audience is typically pro-China. And I am not saying I am not pro-China. But I am saying that it's a little bit messier of a situation, because where did China get the bulk of its wealth? The United States. But China didn't do that. The United States did that. The United States, there was a lot of calls over the last 40 years to not outsource jobs, to not outsource manufacturing. That was a conversation the entire time. But for whatever reason, the politicians in power and the business leaders were like, no, this will be fine.
But at the same time, not just the Chinese that made money, we did as well. I mean, you look at the CEOs, where, I mean, when you have Jamie Dimon going all the way to China to talk to, what is he going to talk to them for? You know, they also made money, so it's kind of,
for
it goes
sure,
both ways.
For sure.
I understand the move, the strategic thinking in Beijing is, over the last, let's say, we'll go 3 decades or so, was always the idea of, you know, we have a system, a global one that is now working to our favor. This is in China's case, and we're not going to upset the balance that way. So
what do you mean? Say a little bit more about that.
Meaning that China understood it make more sense to maintain the status quo as it was back then, because it was on its way up.
Oh, for sure,
for progress and so forth, which is a smart move. That's nothing wrong with that.
But it's unarguable that China put its best interest first, which I am not saying is
wrong.
Rightly so.
Rightly so. I mean,
I understand that. Every country should.
But at the same time, it's interest for the citizens. I mean, does our government do the same?
Oh, unquestionably, no.
That's
unquestionably no.
And that's, to me, my point about the natural progression. These advancements of China, it's a sort of a natural progression. It's expected. It's because also the hard work that's been put in over time. And so that's my point. I've never seen this. Why I argue, even in my days in Washington, D.C., I used to argue with some colleagues, and are they going to take over? I was like, what are you talking about? They're not going to take over. They don't want to take over. Well, they go, look at the yuan. I said, listen, you need to understand. It's because we have weaponized our currency.
Oh, for sure.
China will have to protect itself. And here it is. Now we're seeing with the what's going on with Russia, Iran, and so forth. Speaking of Russia and Iran and China, did you know that the 3 countries now finalized some specific payment systems for the oil?
Yeah, I mean, it's coming straight up. It's already here. It's already here. And sorry, guys, it's so bright. The sun just came through the window, so we're glowing people right now.
Well, you are.
Thank you. You are too, dear. If you look, you're also glowing.
I like it. I keep a low profile. So.
But I do think, sort of going back to our nuclear reactors.
Let's go to nuclear.
So our nuclear reactors here, I think this was a very, very wise investment. So it's interesting because people don't really freak out when you have nuclear weapons. I mean, so let me rephrase that. So countries freak out when other countries have nuclear weapons, but everyone has nuclear weapons, and there are there are more of them than I think are reported. Okay, so we have enough nuclear weapons to destroy this planet 1,000 times. Okay. But, the big issue with nuclear reactors is, Chernobyl. Okay. Right. Like Chernobyl was horrific. Chernobyl, that radiation's going to be around, well past how long we are.
Even for 3 Mile Islands.
3 Mile Island. Right. So, and Japan, we had that fairly recently. So we have these giant nuclear meltdowns. Okay. But with reasonable precautions, I think that because every single one of those, some really crazy human error thing happened.
Or like what the Ukrainians wants to do to Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant.
Oh, yeah. Don't leave that nuclear power plant alone, everybody. We do not need that to explode. Like we need it to be. Yeah. Do not. If anyone in the Ukrainian government or Russian government is listening, do not do that.
Well, actually, they will be just doing the orders we give them.
If anyone in the US government is listening, do not do that. We do not need another nuclear meltdown on this planet. The background radiation is already higher than it was.
So here's the thing. We came across an article written by Kabel Kajal. Give credit where credit is due. Is the one addressed to this particular China's launch of the world first thorium. So, and I'm gonna just share quick quote with you guys here, and we'll elaborate a little bit more. It says, and I quote: "In a significant moment for nuclear energy development, China plans to set up the world first molten salt nuclear power plant station in Gobi Desert. The innovative facility, which China claimed will start operating by 2025, and I confirmed that, by the way.
Yeah.
So intends, here is where the keywords, intends to reshape global energy with its high-end technology and prospects for safer and greener nuclear power industry." End of quote. 2 key things we need to understand, and you're going to address the one about Germany. So 2 key things.
What a mess.
Now, the global energy, we are seeing the shift that's going on. And what do I mean by that? The idea that China, for example, stopped purchasing oil from the US. We created the issue in Ukraine because we wanted to sell energy to Europe. Even I'll go as far as saying, did you know that what was discovered in a study? Here's the thing, guys. It's not confirmed 100% yet, but in a study confirmed that there are about $500 billion worth of natural gas under Gaza.
Yeah, I've heard that.
Yeah, here's the thing. You need to think of it this way. If Russia is not sending gas to Europe, would it make more sense for Israel to do that with the assist of the US? I argued in one of my consulting conversations from way back a few years ago. When someone asked me, approach, it was through consulting aspects of it. As you guys may know, I do consulting and I do speaking. 2 main things. And speaking of speaking, you're not going to be seeing me for a few days because I got some engagements regarding that aspect. I argued back then. I said, well, look no further. You're going to have to think about the gas that exists in the Mediterranean. Yeah. They're like, what do you mean, Dr. O? I said, you probably have no idea about the upcoming geopolitical tensions. Once that discovery comes to the surface, where it's going to be beneficial. I said, well, how can we benefit from this? I said, well, there is one way of doing it, is that you're going to have to produce the pipelines that's going from there all the way to Europe through Turkey.
Yeah.
Now I understand. So this is where why China's investments on the other side of the globe will have an impact on energy, to the point that now the Saudis are shifting their investments in oil industry, not to the US. Did they come to Houston and renovate the?
They sure did not.
The oil
they
refineries?
Sure did not.
No. Which, by the way, I went to Houston yesterday. 8 hours in the car.
I know.
I wish we had a speed train.
Yeah, you know, we could have had a speed train.
45 minutes. 8 hours of my day went into a car.
I know.
Pathetic.
Speed train.
Well, and we spend billions in other stuff. And that's my point, guys. This particular aspect for China's thorium is going to reshape. Is going to reshape the global energy.
Well, and if I'm being completely honest, I would really.
You're always honest.
I know, it's true.
You're always honest.
Well, thank you. That's true. But I actually would really like the world to go to nuclear. Renewables are not catching up fast enough. And I'll dive into Germany in a second and the mistake that Germany made in terms of shutting down their nuclear reactors.
Stupid.
and very costly. So I'll dive into that information in a second. But I am so tired of wars being fought for oil. I'm so tired of conflicts. I'm so tired of all of this for oil.
Well,
you know what I mean? Like,
yeah. Quick example. Iraq and Libya.
Yeah.
That's
absolutely.
Straightforward.
Absolutely.
Why did we allow Libya to go down, or we gave the green light? Why did France? Did you guys know that the oil from Libya, which is considered sweet oil, which is a good quality, that's used for jet fuel? And guess who gets it? Mainly Europe. Europe. So
no, I know, and so if each country had, and because nuclear reactors are clean unless they explode, nuclear reactors are clean energy. So, you know, we're looking at taking carbon out of the atmosphere. We're looking at producing less carbon footprint. And you know, the whole greenwashing campaign, I'm not, I think that's, but no matter what, no matter what, not polluting is like a fantastic idea that I can get behind regardless, right? And so even if you're talking about taking carbon out of the air, that's a viable way to do that. So I honestly, I'm actually very glad. And right now, China is the largest coal user in the world. Let me see if I
thought
can.
It was India also, no? No?
It is not. So here, let me show you this lovely graph, if I can find it. But yes, China is by far the largest coal burner in the world. Coal consumption by nation. All right, can you guys see that? Yeah, there it is. So check out China right here.
Okay.
That is China. Let me see if I can't make it lower. So there you go. Coal consumption by region in 2023.
Yeah.
Asia Pacific is far less than China.
Yeah.
And the Americas is even less. Europe is even less. Africa is like
but the
non-existent. Middle East and is non-existent.
So it's a smart move on part of the Chinese to be going that direction.
Smart.
And second is, you think about how this was China able to attain something like that, is that having the scientists. You have to have the brain power for stuff like that.
Well, and in the United States, back when all of our nuclear reactors were being built in the 19th century, toward middle-ish 19th century, or 20th century, 1900s. Because actually crazy to think about, like 1900s. I was born I was born in the 1900s. That's crazy to think about. But yeah, so we had the brain then. We had the scientists, we had, we had that really big push towards that. And right now we don't. And so I think somebody I saw earlier in the comments, I'm not reading them right now, guys, but before we started was like, well, didn't China steal the nuclear plans from the US? And I think, unfortunately, China obviously steals stuff from the US. The US steals stuff from China and from everybody else. Like, everybody is reverse engineering everybody else's stuff. Okay. So it's not. Do I think it's great to steal? No, obviously not. But everyone is doing it, so I don't know. Maybe that makes it okay. I don't know.
Well, even for us with the German, how do you think we allowed the German scientists here after World War II?
Exactly.
And we gave them we gave them the carte blanche to do whatever.
German scientists who had done horrible things.
Well, Von Braun was involved in the rocket science stuff.
Oh, absolutely.
For what he did for the Germans.
Yeah, Werner von Braun. Yeah.
So
absolutely.
It's kind of like we took that. Hey, can you reverse engineer this? All countries do it.
All countries do it. I don't know whether it's not mine to judge whether that makes it right or wrong. Okay. But the United States doesn't have any nuclear reactors being built right now. We don't have anything coming up. And so I have this as a question. I wonder whether the US really has the scientists to be able to build them or not. I don't know.
As we speak, there is brain drain here in the US.
Yeah.
A lot of scientists are leaving the US.
Where are they going?
Well, some of them are going back to their home countries.
Oh, for sure. To their home countries.
Chinese,
yeah.
Given what they've been experiencing at certain academia. I was aware of 2 cases that the FBI got involved in, just getting on a guy because of Chinese background.
Well, okay, but so there's 2 sides to that coin because it is legitimate that China is stealing stuff from the US. Okay, that's legitimate.
Yeah, but this guy's scientist, why would you target him because he's a Chinese Chinese descent? After so many years, all of a sudden, to me, it's kind of.
I don't.
Well, I was.
There's more to the story.
I was inside the government. I was inside. Certain aspects done certain ways, specifically for certain key industries. I mean, you look at now. This is why we are falling behind in quantum computing.
Oh, we're falling behind in all of the sciences.
And is that because China made a further step?
Yeah.
And the scientists who were working here in the US first, they're working for academic institutions here.
Well, and obviously targeting anybody because of race, for example, is wrong. Like, that is objectively wrong. And so if that was the case, that is wrong and not okay.
Well, the reason I'm saying this because they admitted later that it was a mistake. That's the reason why I'm saying this.
I'm certainly not going to. I'm certainly not going to suggest that the FBI is that competent in many regards. So that's not the first blunder that the FBI has made.
Yeah. But the point about all this nuclear technology that the Chinese moving forward is because of and I'll do this part here. I'll turn it over to you for Germany because of the geopolitical sort of implications to all this. Because mark my word on this, by the time 2025, which will be only a few more months, it's already paving the way for now some other countries to be reconsidering their approach to this. And mind you, the world is already shifting to a multipolar.
Yeah.
So and the best example I can give you now is the Sahel region in Africa. Why is this important? Because it is rich in uranium.
Yeah.
So is Russia.
And
if you think about who's now managing the new global order, it's not the US, it's China and Russia together moving into that direction. So this is what I'm saying. The geopolitical implications is going to be far-reaching.
Yeah.
For now,
I agree.
For now, nobody sort of. You look at Europe. Europe is dug a hole for itself, and the best example is Germany regarding the nuclear.
So
power stuff that they end up doing.
Let's dive into this for a second because so Germany shut down its nuclear power plants. We did a video on this when it happened, and I'm going to share with you right now because a research article came out by Jan Emblemsvag. I apologize if I am pronouncing that incorrectly, but Jan Emblemsvag. And it is titled, "What if Germany had invested in nuclear power? A comparison between the German energy policy the last 20 years and an alternative policy of investing in nuclear power." Let me stick that in the chat if you guys want to read it on your own. Okay, so that is the actual research paper. So anyway, he basically asked the question of, since Germany shut down their nuclear power plants, what has been the cost to Germany for doing that? So one of the most embarrassing parts of the fact that Germany shut down its nuclear power plants is that it had to reopen its coal plants because renewables, and people have been saying this from the beginning, like the people who actually understand how reliant the world is on fossil fuels have been saying renewable isn't catching up. But for some reason, policymakers, and we asked this at the time, because we knew at the time that renewables were not catching up to meet the demand. And if you were right, if you're just a smart person, if you're just a person who has, any thoughts at all, would you not get your renewables to the baseline before you took the other power sources offline? Like, would you not make up for that first, make sure you can generate enough energy, and then take it offline? But that's not what they did. They took the nuclear power offline, and then, just kidding, there's not enough power. And so they had to turn their coal plants off or back on, which is absolute insanity. Okay, that is void of all logic that I can see. So Jan, he's a professor of civil engineering at Norway's NTNU. And he said basically in this that if Germans had basically maintained their 2002 fleet of nuclear power plants through 2022, they could have saved themselves, wait for it, 600 billion euros. 600 billion euros. Okay. In addition to construction costs, renewables required expensive grid updates and subsidies. And they would have experienced nearly identical reduction in carbon emissions. Wow. Okay, because that's a big deal. So he asked the question, what if Germans had actually taken that money and spent it on building new nuclear power plants instead? And these are updated technologies. These are, the newest and best, because a lot of the nuclear reactors that have been going on, they've been online for decades, right? Yeah. So they're old. So with the newest technology, the things that they now know, they could have slashed carbon emissions a further 73%, he says, which is huge on top of their cuts for 2022. And they would have simultaneously enjoyed a savings of 330 billion euros. Wow. So they could have built the new nuclear power plants. They could have slashed carbon emissions even further by 73%. Yeah. And saved 330 billion euros.
And yet, where is the rational thinking of the German government?
No, and I think, Europe has had some really big economic problems in the last decade. Yeah. The policies that happened during the years that shall not be named. Yeah. Those economic policies tanked the economies of so many countries, including China, by the way. If you look at China's growth during those years, it is abysmal. Yeah. And so it's very odd to me. It's very, very odd to me. But anyway,
well, you look at now European leaders have always said this, the collective West, the deficiency in leadership that exists. Did you know, for example, guys, the guy who just been detained in Paris, Pavel, the head of Telegram, that was an order by the US. Why will the heck France will go and do the same scenario that happened to Meng Wanzhou? You remember her? The CFO of Huawei, when the dictator
in Canada
went ahead and why? To me, it was like kind of, this is where you realize when leadership matters. Yeah. You are embarking. In this case, a head of state, you're gonna embark on a decision that you didn't think it through just because the US asked you. Can't you say no?
Speaking of saying no to the US, I don't know how much we can talk about it here, but guys, if you have not read the Mark Zuckerberg letter,
Oh, yes.
Go read it.
Well,
like I said, I don't know how much we can talk about it here.
I know.
But
I did put a comment on my
on geopolitical trends.
No.
On Twitter?
No, on Twitter, on my account.
X.
On my account. Guys, go check it out. Because I put something straightforward there.
Yeah, go read the letter if you haven't. Read the Mark Zuckerberg
but again,
letter.
Just to highlight to you the idea of, at least back then, I remember Angela Merkel. I remember her when she said no to the US for one particular aspect. And I was still in the government at the time. And right after that one, you know what we ended up doing? We tapped into her cell phone.
Oh yeah, I remember.
Right after,
we were
spying on her, that one. So I was aware of the case for. And I was like, to me, it was this.
That's well known.
Even later on, but it was like at that time, that day, I was like, this is wrong.
Yeah,
this is wrong. I understand about going after your own strategic interests and all that stuff. That's what a government is expected to do for its own citizens.
Sure.
But when you are going about it the wrong way, it's not right. And this is again where to think about, just to put this in perspective of why China is moving forward with this thorium.
Yeah,
they're thinking far ahead. Because here's the thing: the dependency on oil.
Yeah,
even though
absolutely.
Now I can say with some probability that China is safer when it comes down to access to oil.
Yeah,
because you got now 4 main oil producers: Russia, Saudi Arabia, Iran, and Venezuela.
Well, that's what BRICS actually really focused on. So
and that is what I was gonna say. Now you got Russia, Saudi Arabia, and Iran in BRICS already. The Venezuela might end up being in BRICS down the road. We don't know yet for sure. But at least you have 3 main producers of oil, and you have the main large consumer of oil. So it's that's secure from that. Because what China's thinking about the developments that's taking place right now in 3 countries. In Philippines, in Japan, and in Australia. I didn't notice. I didn't say South Korea here because there's nothing there except that the existence of the U.S. Of the 30,000 plus U.S. troops there. The changes that I'm talking about that China is aware of are taking place in Philippines, in Japan, and in Australia. So to China, the thinking, if I am to put my geopolitical analyst hat, I would say you better start ensure that one thing you will not be disrupted is the flow of oil. Because if there is the conflict in that part of the world, the Malacca Strait is going to be...
absolutely.
So China's thinking ahead of time of this. Even though there are those who are saying, well, China's going to invade Taiwan. It's nonsense, first of all. And second, the Pentagon assessment will have to say that to justify the funding.
Well, and here fundamentally the question is why? If China were to invade Taiwan, if you guys are, I'm doing the bunny ears, okay? Like invade Taiwan. The question fundamentally is why? Why is the US involved? Why is this even happening? Why is it? And don't tell me democracy. Okay. Straight up, anybody from the US government listening, you have to come up with a different reason than democracy. Okay. Nobody buys that anymore.
Not anymore. That's it.
Okay. Democracy is not a good enough reason. Okay. It's not why things are done. It's just it's not even that great of an excuse. Okay. So don't say it anymore. It's obviously not true. Okay. So you have to come up with some other reason for why this is happening. And if it is economic stability for the US for whatever reason, if it is that you don't want those microchips in Chinese hands anymore, say that. But do not say democracy, because anybody with half a brain does not believe that anymore.
Speaking of chips, I just read somewhere that China now controls about $91 billion worth of chips.
I mean, unfortunately,
I won't be surprised. Something into that effect. I didn't dig deeper into all this, and I intend to look into this in more when I am in Asia. So
what I can tell you is that fundamentally, cooperation always wins out over trying to dominate somebody. Because eventually dominating somebody is going to come back to bite you.
Yeah, it's hard. We're having a hard time accepting. That's where the problem in Washington. We're having a hard time accepting the reality.
Every
that the
bully
world-
gets old.
Yeah, well, the world has shifted already.
Every
And-
bully
and-
gets weak.
Yeah, and we kind of paved the way for this the precipitous shift. We
Mhm.
contributed to it by engaging in more sanctions and all that. I mean, you go and you create
Yeah.
conflict. What for?
Well, and here's the thing. If you are good to people,
Yeah,
not everyone is going to be good to you back.
Yeah.
But the people who are good to you back
yeah,
are going to be the strongest players you have.
yeah,
You know, if the people who are most supported in any community are the people who give back, the people who make the lives of other people better.
Yeah, and that applies to a government too.
That
You
applies
think
to a
about
government too.
why a government is respected, for example. Why will a government be respected? It will be respected because it's doing what it's supposed to do.
It is taking care of the people.
I look at it just
internal and
as an
external.
example. I'll
Yeah.
give you guys just an example. It's out of topic from here, but give you just quick example. When you think about war,
Yeah.
and I'm talking about our system, just to highlight to you where the
Mhm.
discrepancy is. When we think about war,
Mhm.
who has the constitutional authority to declare war?
Congress.
Why is that?
So that one person can't do it alone.
But that's one. But also
Yeah.
there is another fundamental issue, fundamental aspects to that,
Hmm.
and that because Congress is
Yeah.
the institution elected by the people,
Right.
which means it will be the vote of the people,
Right.
not one individual.
It's not now.
And even that's my point.
Yeah.
So when you start to see the behavior of a government like that, you
Mhm.
start to say to yourself, why should I have respect for this government? Because it's obviously is not responding to
Mhm.
my demands, my needs, my concerns, and the whole idea of the government for the people by the people.
Yeah.
And when you don't see that, what would you respect the government?
Yeah. No, absolutely. And
Simple as that.
here's the deal. Like with the United States, people know that we've been lied to like over and
no, yeah,
over and
it's
over
becoming
and
too-
over again.
yeah.
And so how long do you trust a liar? You don't.
Yeah.
If you are dumb, you trust liars, right? But then you get the result of
Yeah.
trusting liars. And I think most people feel that there's nothing that they can do to change
Yeah.
the type of person that we have in office.
Yeah. And that's why I believe the idiot guy, Zuckerberg or whatever,
Yeah.
they came up with that letter. It's not that he cares. He wants to save his skin.
Yeah.
He wants to
agree.
save his skin, because if you only guys know the dark side of what's going on in that
Mhm.
side, I mean, come on.
But
You
that's what's
You call a
happening.
spade a spade.
Yeah.
Well, the idea of, you're talking about the First Amendment, and all of a sudden you've been silenced because you're speaking truth. That's to me kind
And
of.
so they pushed the responsibility off on the government
Yeah.
instead of on themselves,
Yeah.
which there's truth to that.
Well,
it seems.
but we're
Mhm.
experiencing even on this platform.
Yeah,
You
I
ask
don't know if we can
yourself,
talk about it.
Yeah, you start to worry about, well, can I see this or can I not see
Mhm.
that? And once you get into that level,
Yeah.
that's it.
Yeah.
Where is this so ideal of the freedom of speech or democracy? And so that becomes, it just as I always call it, I draw a blank on the word.
You
So
will-
that's I get into my own. It becomes just window dressing per se.
yeah.
So
Yeah.
it becomes the idea, because you're gonna be judging a government by the results. And again, to go back to our main topic,
The results are bad
yeah,
here.
here is where China's
They're
moving
bad.
forward. Yeah, where China's moving forward, because the citizens are benefiting from that progress.
Yeah.
This is not about, I mean, she was right. President Xi, give him proper respect.
Mm-hmm.
President Xi was right when he said, you know what he said? And I paraphrase here.
Yeah.
He said, if you want to be rich, don't work for the government.
Yeah.
And he's right. You're gonna have to understand how. I'm not saying, it's a different system than ours. It's all we
If you want
understand.
to be
all
rich, do work for the government here, because
Here.
you'll leave office
Yeah.
a multimillionaire.
that. Yeah. And to me, when you have that massive corruption, why those people are not being held responsible? I know what to do.
Yeah.
I know what to do if I'm given the authority to decide on the punishment for those.
know.
I don't need to say it here, right,
Mhm.
guys? You know what it is, right?
But fundamentally, all we're asking for is a better life
Well, the
for
better life
everyone around the world.
is when
Do
you
know
have
what
a
I mean?
responsible, when you have a
I know.
responsible government. And again, the citizens also need to educate themselves.
Absolutely, because whose responsibility is it to make sure that we have responsible leaders? It's ours.
Yeah.
We have allowed this to continue. And it's very interesting. Over the last couple of years, the amount of Gen Zers or the young people who have started waking up to what the United States has been doing globally, it's been really, really interesting to watch, because all of a sudden, you know, because the Gen Z, like I'm a millennial, right?
Yeah.
And we were basically already born into a collapsing society. We're a collapsing system. Gen Z was born into a worse collapsing system and never knew any part of the good old days, because I do believe that the United States used to be actually like a beacon of science. And why we don't have the World's Fair anymore, right? Where they had all these like exciting inventions and things that, you know, we were gonna have flying cars by now, you know, all of our energy problems were going to go away by now. Why don't we have World's Fair anymore? Because we don't really have new technology in that kind of big, exciting way. We have stuff like AI that people are mostly scared of because they've seen a bunch of Terminator movies, which is very valid. But we don't have the big, exciting stuff anymore because there's no hope. There's no excitement for the future here in the United States anymore. But Gen Z was born into just a failing system. And so they're waking up to the United States isn't the highest quality of life in the world. Not even close.
And this is one of the things I will be doing for some speaking engagements. That it's because the understanding of how can we preposition ourselves for what lies ahead. So that's why I mentioned, guys, earlier, you will not be seeing me for a few days, but we'll get into that. So
do you want to take a couple of questions?
Yes. I always like the community when we get engaged with them.
Yeah, guys, and put the word question in front of it so that I can see the question.
She's seeing something.
Oh, she sees something.
Yeah.
She likes to chase frogs.
Oh,
I have a Great Pyrenees, and she likes to chase frogs across
alone.
Yeah.
Live and let live. They don't.
Oh my gosh, Army of the Harmony! I attended the World's Fair in Spokane, Washington, 1970.
Oh my God!
Oh, really? It predicted this environmental collapse we are experiencing. That's very interesting. That's very, very interesting. I'd like to hear a little bit more about what that was like.
Yeah.
Matt
Becky, you're right. Nancy Pelosi made Henry. And you know what the punishment should be. No ifs and buts.
God.
You're right. You're absolutely correct. Matt, let's see a question here.
I don't know, David. There's a lot of chat up in here.
Okay. No, usually they put Q for question.
Okay. I don't know. Well, they have a lag.
Oh, I see.
Remember?
Yeah.
Well, anyway, a little bit more, I guess, about the nuclear reactors, if you want to dive into it.
Yeah.
There's 11 of them.
Yes. Well, that I don't understand that aspects, but what I understand is to me, it's how serving the interest of the citizens. You know, that's to me the whole objective of this idea of why China moving forward. And the other aspect to this to me was the investments. Look where they are investing money.
Well, and honestly, $31 billion
it's nothing.
Is not that much.
But it's still is the idea of where they're. I mean, I am yet. I'll go back to example yesterday when I drove 8 hours in the car.
I know.
And I'm like,
I've done it.
How much I wasted? 8 hours of my time has been wasted in the car. If we will have a speed train, I could have get to my destination in 45 minutes. To get the business that I needed to do and get back home and do my other work that I needed to. Yesterday I felt yesterday I was unproductive.
It was.
That's what I felt. Unproductive. I don't like to waste a day just to waste it. I understand about chilling out and all that. It's all nice, but I felt unproductive yesterday.
Yeah.
Why? Because the infrastructure that, to me, why would you send the $200 billion to Ukraine?
Yeah. Well, or some of it could be used on a high-speed train.
Yeah, it's the idea of it.
Absolutely. So. Okay, so
we got one question, at least one.
Well,
I see one here.
Yeah,
I see one here. Ali Stalokin. Let me put on the screen for everybody to see. Here we go, guys. How is China's artificial sun coming?
Hold on, Matt. I see your question.
I do not know that.
And I am obsessed with Lord of the Rings. I have been, and so that is the biggest compliment I think you could have possibly given me. I'm blushing. Thank you. That's very sweet.
What is that?
So he said that I turned into Lady Galadriel from Lord of the Rings, and I'm freaking out right now.
Lord of the Rings. What is that?
What, David? Lord of the Rings, the book series.
Oh, the one that's from that British.
Yeah, Tolkien.
I don't know. I just heard about it.
What?
No, I don't watch this.
Have you? Okay.
No, I won't
obviously, you haven't read the books.
No, I didn't.
But you haven't seen the movies either?
No, I won't.
Not the Amazon remake. Sorry, guys, this is totally off topic, but it's very important. I cannot believe that David has not read Lord of the Rings.
No, I didn't.
Okay, we're going to fix this.
No, what I can watch, for example, I can like to watch Stargate.
Stargate's fantastic.
That
love that. Yes, big fan. But Lord of the Rings is better.
Is it? No.
It's better. It's better times a million.
It will take a lot of convincing.
Better time. Oh my gosh. Okay. We're going to fix this, guys. David's going to learn about Lord of the Rings. Okay. Sorry. Go ahead, please, David.
What was it? It was about the question from Alice Talukin. China's artificial sun coming. I'm not aware of this. I do not know.
Yeah, I know that it's a thing, but I don't know what the I don't know what the status.
What I know, and I can confirm this with a dear friend of mine. You guys saw him before on the other channel, Dr. Dashwan Fang. You know, he's a theoretical physicist by training. What I can tell you is the quantum computing. And he just did I watch his stuff. He sent me he calls on some really top notch in the world.
Yeah,
you're talking about some high end astrophysicists and not Neil deGrasse Tyson. He called from others in Europe.
And he's not a pop scientist.
No. Well, especially when what Tyson said about. We're not going to talk about that here. But my dear friend, when I talk about and listen to those, it's about the quantum computing, the steps far ahead that China has achieved in quantum computing. As to the sun, I do not know, and I will ask him that question because I'll be seeing him.
Yeah, it's been interesting because for a very long time China was really behind and had to steal technology from the United States, right, to move forward. And now I think it's probably the other way around. But I think it's a really big message towards what you focus on is what grows. And China has focused on science. They've focused on technology. And here in the United States, I believe that I believe in extraterrestrials or extra, ETs, whatever you want to call them. Yeah. And so if you follow Stephen Greer at all, one of the things that he talks about is the suppression of technology in the United States and globally, because if we were allowed to advance too far, we couldn't be controlled. And I think that's probably true.
That's why we are not even a type 1 civilization.
Yeah. Well, in the US, has been downgraded in a whole bunch of ways recently.
Now, I mean, the simple answer for what you mentioned about the scientists is because you see how much China produces a year for engineers and scientists.
Oh, absolutely.
We don't have that here. Things are changing.
And they need this is my soapbox, but it is the flat out truth. I believe that if the United States was actually really serious about making the US a global superpower again, it should invest in its people, because the people are who will build the next greatest technology. The people are who will make the country actually propel itself forward. And what is the US not doing? Investing in its people. The United States is the only country, the United States and Ghana, I think, are the only two places that did not classify food as a basic human right. Okay. That is for a first world country, that is disgusting.
And that's part of the problem why the cases of cancer and all that we have so much. That's another topic for another day.
If you guys are interested in health at all, there is a guy named Callie Means, CALLEYMEANS. Look him up. I do not know how much we can talk about. Tucker Carlson actually just interviewed him and his sister.
I listened to that yesterday. That's why
I have been, yes, I have been.
It's an eye opener.
Absolutely. Callie and Casey means if you guys are interested in health at all, if you're interested in what's happening to a food system in the United States, I will shout their names from the rooftops.
Now you guys know why I always tell you about health. You take good care of your health because it matters. It's your best asset ever.
Totally.
So, and stop, or I shouldn't say stop. You do what you want, but cut down on eating outside.
Well, and even that, oh my God, you know what I saw? I saw this statistic. I can't point to it. So I'm not going to say it's 100% true because I cannot point to the actual research for this, but it came from a doctor. It came from a medical doctor. And he said that 75% of rainfall here in the United States has glyphosate in it. So even if you are buying organic produce, even if they're not getting sprayed with glyphosate, they are getting rained on.
Yeah.
And so even stuff that's organic here doesn't mean that it doesn't have contaminants. It just means that it wasn't sprayed with, let's say, Roundup.
Yeah, and all that.
So it's okay, all kinds of crazy stuff. But I want to point out, so Sammy said that, I do not know if you are male or female, but Sammy said that they also liked Stargate. I love Stargate also. Stargate's fantastic.
Let me take this from James, Lara. What?
I read the question. Yeah, Boeing is great.
Yeah, you know. Yeah, I put something on the community.
It's funny, not funny, but
yeah, with the problems with the Stark ISS astronaut. This sent, I think they sent something yesterday. The blue, whatever they call it, Blue Origin.
Yeah.
They sent in something to rescue the astronaut, which is embarrassing. But what I can tell you, I can tell you based on my own knowledge, is that the research project between Russia and China is moving forward regarding the moon. That I can tell you because I read up on different sources. They're moving forward with that, and that to me, it's a major initiative that they're going to be take. And one of the key aspects to it has to do also with weapons in space. There is no ifs and buts, because when you consider, for example, Bill Gates has about 60,000 satellites released.
What Bill Gates needs 60,000 satellites for? Bill Gates.
You think about what Elon Musk is planning on doing as far as the coverage and all that. So the Chinese and the Russians already concerned about their own technology, weapons technology that depends on satellites. And as a matter of fact, to my knowledge, the Chinese are gonna either they release or they're gonna release something way out there that we are concerned about it. I don't know the detail. The word that I get was they are working on something that of great concern to us, because it will have far advanced capabilities. And I can just see why, because this is why we are able to this is why the Russians are able to destroy any type of weapons used in Ukraine.
You know, it's actually very interesting because the United States has privatized the space race, right? Like, so the United States has privatized its space. It's outer space stuff. So we have Jeff Bezos, we have Elon Musk, that are, Boeing. That is so embarrassing. It is so embarrassing. Like, with all this stuff with Boeing going on, honestly, I am shocked that Boeing is still around. Okay. I don't know. It's super embarrassing. I don't know what else to say about it. Boeing has, I don't understand what Boeing was thinking when they started cutting corners the way that it has come to light that they have. What were they thinking? Did they think that it wouldn't come out? Did they think that their planes were going to be just fine? Like, what did they think?
They are now very concerned because a recent analysis came out of their own assessment that the Chinese is going to be building about 460 planes by next decade, plus about 12 years or so, including the cargo planes. So, hey, you got to read this. This is for you.
Hey, thank you, Francis Tango.
Been an avid supporter. Thank you,
Yes,
Francis.
thank you.
So,
And I love coffee.
well, here you have it right there.
That's not coffee.
That's
this
not
is
coffee. It looks
Tart's
coffee.
cherry juice.
Okay.
For the
Whatever that
vitamin
is.
C and the
All
antioxidants.
I know is I need to go drink coffee soon because I didn't eat yet. So, Alice Talokin, you mentioned something about CERN, and you guys have, yeah, of course.
Absolutely.
All right, we'll do one more question,
I've heard
and I'm going to sign off here, guys.
I've heard some crazy stuff about CERN.
Yeah.
Like, guys, if you haven't heard the interesting stories that have come out of there about what they're doing and not talking about, like, check that out. I don't know, it's interesting. I don't know what I think about it, but they're interesting, very weird stories coming out of there that I think are worth exploring.
Yeah, maybe we'll do that on the other location.
Yeah, maybe. Maybe.
So, guys, tomorrow, remember, join me tomorrow on the other channel. I might do live. I'm not sure yet.
Okay.
So, what there is?
Well, say what the other channel is, so if people don't know it,
they know.
Geopolitical Trends. I will say it.
Yeah. Because I'm gonna be thinking about whether to talk about, are there dead Americans in Ukraine?
Yeah, what was the thing? I forgot who said it, but there was like a lot of.
So I might do that when we'll do part of the conversation there. Then we'll finish the conversation at the other location. Did you know that I just found out through one of our viewers, in some countries they don't have access to the other location?
Yes, well, free speech is less of a thing in some other places than it is here too.
In France.
In France?
They didn't have it. Yeah. One guy sent me a comment from France. He said, Dr.
That's
O,
weird.
we don't have access to
VPN. Get you a VPN.
So
get you a VPN.
Anyway, guys, I hope you find this very informative. As always, we appreciate your support. It means a lot to us.
And don't worry, Matt, I will tell David all of that stuff about Lord of the Rings.
I don't know.
We're going to get him into it. We're going to get him into it.
I don't know. My brain operates in some other stuff. So anyway, guys, I hope to see you. It's always great to be with you as always. And we look forward to seeing you next time. As always, prepare yourself for changing world order. Till next time. Bye-bye.